this video, I am going to show you how you can create focal points in your reef tank through strategic coral placement so that you can have a more visually appealing, sexy reef tank. By creating focal points in your tank, you can actually save a lot of money on corals. I know this sounds crazy, I know, but at the end of this video, it will all come together, I promise. So if you're new here, hello, howdy, hi, my name is Stephanie, and I make reef tank design videos and silly vlogs about my reef tank journey. So if you like the reef tanks and want to check out some of my design tips and tricks videos, make sure to hit subscribe now. So, the focal point. The focal point is an area of emphasis that demands the most attention and what the viewer's eye is drawn to. It's like a bullseye on a target, but not as overt, you know? For example, when we look at a photograph, our eyes naturally recognize that we should focus on a particular element, and that element is the main focal point. A focal point in a reef tank is what your eye instantly draws itself to when viewing your aquarium. Focal points can be created through your aquascape or through your coral placement or both. You can have up to 3 focal points in your tank, but one is usually dominant. It's the point that is the strongest with the greatest visual weight. To create focal points through our coral placement, we must strategically allow one particular coral to attract the attention of our eye first. So for the first step, we must select our showpiece corals. Showpiece corals are the corals that you really want to highlight in your tank, and they are essentially our focal points. The showpiece corals can be bougie, high-end corals, or just a coral that you really love for whatever reason or no reason at all. So depending on the size of your tank, pick 1 to 3 showpiece corals that you really want to show off. No more than 3 showpiece corals. You don't want it to get too busy and just end up defeating the purpose that you're doing this for in the first place. So after you have selected what you want your showpiece corals to be and have placed them in a spot that best suits their requirements for lighting, flow, etc., it's time to think about how we can make them stand out as focal points. We can create focal points using 3 different methods: color, contrast, and placement. Creating a focal point using color is really easy. Just take your showpiece coral, aka the coral you want to emphasize, and assess what its primary color is. Then think about what types of corals can be placed near it, surrounding it, based on the lighting and flow in that area. After you have an idea of what your options are in terms of corals, pick corals with colors that contrast the primary color of your showpiece coral. This is easily done using the color wheel. The color wheel is your best friend for creating focal points with color. Just find the primary color of your showpiece coral and find the opposite color of it on the color wheel. Place colors in the opposite color next to your showpiece coral to make your coral really pop. For example, if you have this beautiful green micromusa as your showpiece, take out your handy dandy color wheel. The opposite of green is red. So with these other micromusas and blastos that are mostly red in color, you can make your beautiful green micromusa showpiece really stand out. Or you can also create color contrast by placing your prized yellow hammer coral in the middle of these purple and pink hammer corals in your hammer garden. It'll stand out this way and it'll just look really, really hot. Another way to create a focal point with your coral placement is by creating contrast. Contrast your showpiece coral against other corals by adding corals near it with different shapes and textures. For example, you can create contrast by placing a leather near your hammer garden, as they differ in both shape, texture, and movement. Or you could even add green star polyps polyps next to your blastos for the same effect. You've got so many different options here with this one. Placement is another method for creating focal points using our coral placement. Placing a coral that is isolated from all the others makes it stand out more to the eye. For example, if you have this bright and bold Zoroark on your sand bed, it stands out against the corals on the rest of your aquascape because it's isolated there on its own. By using any or all of these techniques when selecting corals that surround your showpiece coral, it will make your showpiece corals stand out as a focal point. Your eye will be instantly drawn to this coral and it'll look really, really nice. But remember to never add corals near your showpiece coral that don't thrive in that particular location. The health of your corals, above all, is always the most important thing to having a beautiful reef tank, okay? But how will creating focal points in your tank using coral placement save you money, you ask? Well, when you're highlighting a particular showpiece coral strategically, the other corals surrounding it don't have to be as impressive as your eye isn't instantly drawn to them anyway. You know? I mean, if you have a tank that is packed with just high-end bougie corals, everywhere you look, high-end bougie corals, there is not one coral that is not a high-end bougie coral. I mean, do the corals really stand out against each other? Does any one coral stand out? Probably not, you know? So by using these techniques to create focal points with 1 or 3 of your corals, you can make certain corals that you really love pop to the eye and look really special in your tank. You can save money when buying corals by using this technique because not all corals have to be bold, bright, and bougie. Just make sure that your showpiece corals are special and you can save a little more on those filler corals that surround them. Hope you guys enjoyed this reef tank design video. How many focal points can you spot in your tank? Let me know in the comments.